Asteroid Belt, Part 2. Okay, so for this one, I'm hoping that you tried to read through this information about the asteroid belt on your own. If you haven't, pause me now, take a moment, try to go through it, see how much you can get through, and then read it along with me. Okay, so I'm going to trust at this point that you've tried. Okay, so the asteroid belt. What if every single student in your school went into a hallway for recess? Like one little hallway. How many students would bump into each other? This would be like the asteroid belt. The asteroid belt is an immense or extremely large system of many large and small rocks that orbit the sun. These rocks we call asteroids are between Mars and Jupiter, the inner planets and the outer planets. Some scientists believe the asteroids were masses, or large objects, that never grew large enough to become a planet, while some believe the planet was a planet destroyed by a meteor that demolished or broke it apart into a billion pieces. Certain scientists call asteroids minor planets. An asteroid is a rocky mass from as tiny as a pebble to the size of Florida, or several hundred miles long. Many collide or force into each other and break apart into small pieces, while others can collide and combine or come together into a different sized asteroid. Scientists have studied asteroids and sent a robot spacecraft to land on one named Eros. Evidence of craters and layers of rock were found. So if craters have been found, that means that things have bonked into it, right? If you flew a spaceship through the asteroid belt, it would be like running down that packed hallway. Okay, so what I did on this next page is I highlighted where I found the answers to the three questions as I was reading. So if we remember, question 1 was describe how an asteroid is formed. So what I was looking for is created, or things that like grow, or words that mean to come together. And I was able to find it right here in these red spaces. So I numbered them 1A and 1B, because if you remember, question 1 wanted us to do 2 reasons. The 2 reasons I chose were some scientists believe the asteroids were masses that never grew large enough to become a planet, while some believe the planet was destroyed by a meteor that demolished it into a billion pieces. So those are my 2 examples that I found. So then I had to look for question 2. And question 2 was, how do scientists know that asteroids collide into each other and break apart into smaller pieces? So I had to think to myself, what was the word that we know of? Think about Mercury and our moon. What is the evidence that we see that things have hit Mercury and our moon? And the answer is craters. So as I was reading, I said to myself, oh, look at this. Scientists have studied asteroids and sent a robot spacecraft to land on one named Eros. Evidence of craters and layers of rock were found. So those craters tell us that things bounced into these different asteroids, including the one called Eros. So what the scientists did was they had to go to one of these astronauts, not people, but a spacecraft, an unmanned one, had to go to one of these asteroids in order to find the craters. Now we can see the craters like we can see the craters on Mercury, but the astronauts went so far as to actually go to this asteroid in order to see the craters. So then question 3, if you remember, was why would it be hard to pass through the asteroid belt? And I found that right, oh boy, oh gracious, bear with me, that 3 got huge. There we go. Okay, so I found that right here in the blue. It says if you flew a spaceship through the asteroid belt, it would be like running around a packed hallway. So that's Why is it hard to pass through? It's because it's like a packed hallway. It's filled with asteroids. And so you'd be dodging them right and left. Just like and you guys actually really remind me of this, when K, 1, 2, 3, and 4th grade are all out on the big yard together, although we can't usually use equipment, we look like asteroids. And hopefully we're not colliding. Okay, so I hope you have similar answers to mine. There were slight differences that you might be able to find. So for instance, some people believe that scientists call asteroids minor planets. So you could even say that that perhaps like they're minor planets that are out there in space, and that's how the asteroid belt formed. And that would be a correct answer as well. All right, so what do we do on what do we do here? How do I write down my answers? So what I'm hoping here is that you will pause me if you haven't done this yet, and you will go back to where we highlighted together, and then you will write your complete sentences and then check yours with mine. So pause me now, make sure you've written something. We want a complete sentence. Remember to restate the question. So for number 1, I could say asteroids are formed by. Okay, come back to me when you're ready. All right. So now you should be ready. So we know that some scientists believe asteroids were formed when let me skip a line. When a planet was destroyed by a meteor. Okay, so that was the first example. And remember, I kind of shortened it. I could have said it blew into a billion pieces. That would also be correct, but I kind of shortened this one. So now we're going to go to number 2. Well, it's more like 1B. So shall we call it 1B? That way we match what we wrote for the other one. And let's call this one 1A. Okay, sorry, let me fix my formatting. Okay, so 1B is the other example of how this may have been formed are that asteroids are masses that never grew large enough to become a planet. Now, I know that Mrs. Smith kind of did hers out of order. That's okay. I mean, as long as I had the correct answer, that's all my teacher is looking for, whether your teacher is Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Fergosi or the 4th grade teacher. All we're looking for are the correct answers, so they can be a little bit out of order. Now, would I suggest doing a super small font and a super big font if you were doing this for your other teacher? Probably not. But when Mrs. Smith is using these videos, sometimes I have to get creative. All right, so let's go to number 2. This was about asteroids colliding and breaking apart. So the question is, how do they break apart into smaller pieces? Before I do that, I just want to create another box for this one. There we go. All right, so how do scientists know that asteroids collide and break apart? Well, we know that because, if you remember, scientists did what? Scientists landed a spacecraft on the asteroid, remember what it's called? Named Eros. Okay, and they found evidence. I'm taking this right from my page. You can find this. They found evidence of craters and layers of rock. Now, here's the part where I might want to include a little bit more of my own knowledge. Craters mean that meteors or asteroids have collided. So that's the evidence of the collision. All right, so let's go to number 3. Why would it be hard to pass through an asteroid belt? Well, we know that the asteroid belt, how did they describe it? They used an example like school. The asteroid belt is like a crowded hallway. So we could even use our St. Dominic's example. It would be like trying to, oh, let me fly a spacecraft through our crowded, large play yard. I call it large playground, that's what we call it. And I'll just get rid of these capitals that aren't needed. Okay, so I was able to take a little bit of my own creativity, but first I used the exact example here, a crowded hallway, a packed hallway, and then I said it's a little bit like our term we can use for St. Dom's, is that it's a little bit like a crowded playground, right? And you're taking this giant spacecraft and you're trying to go through, and just like asteroids and just like people on the playground, we're never stopped. It's not like the asteroids are like, and then people can go through it. It's just like when we're playing outside. You can't say to all the second graders, everyone freeze, all second graders freeze. That's not the way it works. So, okay, so I hope you've enjoyed learning about the asteroid belt, and I'll see you later for a few more videos and another story time. Have a great day.